They actually studied writing. And when you study professional writing and editing, you do also learn how to research because it's part of it. I think most authors who become very successful and take time to write things spend time learning how to research and edit and all of this stuff that you do when you go and study.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Okay, everybody. So what if I told you that your body has been trying to have a conversation with you your entire life, but you've never learned its language? That shooting pain in your back isn't about posture, and that headache isn't about stress, and that digestive issue isn't just about what you ate. Really, it's your body speaking a secret language, and today's guest is here to teach you how to become fluent and teach us some writing tips in the process. So, without further ado, I'm happy to announce Inna Segal, and she's the author of The Secret Language of Your Body. She's sold over 1 million copies, earned endorsements from leading physicians who recognize that she's onto something revolutionary. So, welcome to our show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Danielle. It's great to be here.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Yeah, of course. This is a very interesting conversation because, I don't know about you, but I'm sure everybody listening today, right now, we're having somewhere on our bodies in pain. Maybe it's your back, maybe it's your shoulder. We're sitting at our desks for too long. So this is going to be a really enlightening conversation. I appreciate you putting the, effort forward to make a book to teach us all about it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, of course. But before we get into the book itself, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you and, what kind of led you to writing about the book. I was looking into your materials and you mentioned that someone once asked what kind of book you had written and you replied, I've written a book I would like to use. So what about your background, your experiences inspired you to start putting this onto paper?
My experiences were that I think a lot of people, I grew up with the idea that somebody else, that an expert had an answer to everything. And in particular with your health, and that I didn't really have any real understanding or connection with my body, and that anything that happened to my body essentially happened by accident. I had no participation in it, essentially. And I got to a point where I was having pretty intense back pain, digestive issues, anxiety, psoriasis all over my skin. And I was going to either a medical or an alternative practitioner because I started seeing alternative practitioners, alternative medicine. Almost at times, it was between 3 and 5 days a week. And I wasn't really getting better. I would have relief at some point, or I would put stuff on my skin or on my body, but I wasn't having healing. I was having just a little bit of relief and a moment of, oh, okay. And then the back pain would come back again, the psoriasis would come back, and often it would come back after a treatment. So I'd have this little relief, but it would come back with a vengeance. And there was a moment where I was seeing this chiropractor and he basically said, your body wants to be stuck. And I said, yeah, I know this part. What are you going to do to help me? And he just said, nothing. There's nothing I can do to help you. And so I went home and I made a decision that I was going to figure it out. I was going to figure out that language. I was going to heal myself. So I got home, I placed my hands on my back. I was breathing into the pain. I was asking questions. I felt this warmth come through my body. I also felt like, for whatever reason, because I so deeply wanted to understand this language, I had this thought that came, which was, what would happen if I could see into my body, if I could actually see what's going on. And I didn't really expect anything to happen, but I literally felt like somebody turned the light on and I could see my back, I could see my spine. And from a place of not being a victim, because most people feel when their body's not working, they feel like they're a victim of what's happening inside of them. So I had felt that for a long time, but this time I asked the question of, why do I have this at such a young age? I was just 21, just turning or about to turn 21 at the time. And I just started having all these insights about trauma in childhood, about moving countries, because I came from Eastern Europe and I didn't know how to speak one word of English. We moved to Australia. It was a very, very different culture to what we were used to. My grandparents had gone through the war and through a lot of pain and trauma, and I could see how I absorbed all of this, and it led to quite a lot of pain inside my body. And so I started connecting with this more and more. I do have to say, the following day when I woke up, because I had gone through a lot of emotional kind of clearing and understanding, about 70% of the pain was gone. I still had psoriasis, I still had digestive issues, I still had some pain, but I knew something had shifted and I really wanted to know more. So I kept connecting to my body and discovering things. By the end of about 3 weeks, I had no more pain, and I've never had pain like that since, or anything close to it. I might have a little moment if I'm standing for a long period of time, but of a tiny amount of pain, but not really much. And my digestive system took a lot longer to improve. My psoriasis disappeared and I've never had it since. And I realized that I could tune into people and really understand what was going on. So essentially, this led to me eventually, 6 years later, um, feeling like I wanted to write a book where other people had access to, one, insights into their own body, but also processes and ways that they could work with their own body to start to experience understanding, connection, and healing.
That is just an incredible journey that you've been through, just like the pain, but also the learning and transformation that came through this all. And it sounds to me like as you went into the writing process, you were able to learn even more, throughout, the research phase and the writing phase. And now it seems like you're very in tune with it all. I was wondering if you can walk us through what it was like for you to write all this, because well, one, I'm sure you learned from your clients because you mentioned that every client contributed to your understanding of the messages, but also the research process too must have been extensive. So, walk us through that. What was that like for you, and did you experience any challenges?
I actually don't even know how I did it at the time, because I had two very small children and I was working nonstop, having clients, and I also I was traveling and teaching already. So I guess, when you're 26, 27, you have a lot of energy. Or I certainly did. And so I had already done a lot of research in terms of, before I even had a conversation with the publisher, who really deeply encouraged me to write this. I literally, when I went to see him, I already had probably half of the book written, just from the fact that I'm one of those people who takes really, really good notes. And I had already been working with a lot of people from all over the world. I was doing healing sessions in person, I was doing it online, I was already teaching. And when I was teaching, I had already kind of put and gathered a lot of the information into processes, into understanding and going through different parts of the body. In terms of research, my biggest research was actually trying to understand exactly how each part of the body and how each system of the body worked, as well as it was almost like I was entering into the disease. And I'm not going to say that part of the process wasn't the most pleasant, because I had to really sense and understand and, um, I guess, really connect the pieces of how an illness comes about, what we do and how we think, and what happens in our lives, in our thinking, feeling, actions, experiences, to essentially, I'm not going to say completely cause it, because there's other factors like food and sleep and things like that that are involved, and anything you put into the body, which I didn't really write about. But my focus was on your emotional, mental, behavioral kind of experience. And so, because I was so young at the time, I mean, I had done a lot of different studies with different people. When people say, "Oh, but did you go to university for this?" Please show me a course in university that teaches this stuff, because I've never seen one. But I had studied in university. I actually studied writing. And when you study professional writing and editing, you do also learn how to research, because it's part of it. I think most authors who become very successful and take time to write things spend time learning how to research and edit and all of this stuff that you do when you go and study. I already had a background in writing. I spent, I think, a year at the time at university and another 3 years in Australia. We call it TAFE, because TAFE had better teachers. So I moved from one to the other, and much more successful teachers who'd done a lot more. So I was really excited to have them, guide and teach me. And in that, I had already also published, my partner and I, we'd published other people's books, and we published our own kind of poetry book and creative book with another publisher, I'm going to say. So I'd already felt quite comfortable with understanding what it took to put a book together by that stage. But I had a lot of books out of different modalities, meaning things like pressure points, acupuncture, understanding how to certain connections with breathing and how to breathe. I'd done so much research and study of those things prior. I'd spent many, many years from when I was maybe, I don't know, 16, going to yoga classes as well at the time and learning different postures. I went to acupuncture. I was very, very familiar with different modalities. And I also had many people come to me from different modalities. And so what I did when I finished the book, which I thought was really, powerful, because essentially I was very young and I knew that it would be easy for people to attack me, and I wanted to, prevent that. So I sent the book to every I guess prominent person from every modality that I could think of. And I started from medicine. So obviously I have a forward from a medical doctor who was a surgeon and a very famous author as well, had many New York Times bestsellers. So he gave me a forward, and then I sent it to at least 10 other doctors from different medical fields. I also sent it to psychiatrists, I sent it to psychologists, I sent it to Chinese medicine practitioners, chiropractors, physiotherapists, literally massage therapists, anyone that I could think of, reflexologists and kinesiologists. And I said to them when I sent them the book, because it wasn't published obviously yet, if you find anything in the book that is off, that doesn't align with what you know, please let me know before it's published. And there was probably close to 100 people that I sent this to, all with my partner at the time. And I feel like every time somebody would send feedback, I'd be so scared to open it. But then I would cry, I would have tears because the things they said were so encouraging and inspiring. And, most of them were saying, this book is necessary. This book is going to save lives, change lives, give people back their power and understanding of their health. And that gave me so much courage and confidence.
That is amazing, and I guess we can all learn from this for the most part is the way that you did not give up. You kept sending that manuscript to different people. You kept finding new paths to research and learn, and I think that's something we could all learn from. A lot of authors face these struggles or face roadblocks and decide, you know what, I'm done or I'm going to take a break, but you kept going with it, and so it must have just been very rewarding to know now that it's an international bestseller and translated into 26 languages. Did you anticipate this level of global resonance and were you surprised by the amazing feedback?
I did, to be fair, because when I first went and talked to my publisher, I don't want to say, but it took enormous amount of work. It didn't just happen. When I first met my publisher in Australia, because I also have a publishers in many other countries, it's definitely more than 26 now. I think last time I counted, there was 27 languages, but many more countries that are publishing it and still republishing it. In just this year, it came out in Portuguese, in Spanish, but in different parts of this, Spain and the Portuguese, where people speak Portuguese language, than it had prior to this. So it's quite, amazing because I keep going, oh, and it's in this language and in this language still after so many years. And when I was speaking to my publisher originally, he actually said that. He said, Inna, because we spoke about all the different aspects of the book, and he said, if you put all these aspects together, there is absolutely no doubt that this book is going to become a bestseller. So he did give me that confidence. And then because I felt that that's what is likely to happen, I really worked my ass off, I'm going to say. I mean, at the beginning, my partner and I, he contacted, because I was not known, obviously, he contacted all the bookshops in Australia, literally every, as that sold books on alternative health. And I went and did book signings and I did talks in those bookshops because I realized that if I spoke to the bookseller and they liked me, they would sell. I mean, I know in the US, I went to one and this lady, just one bookshop, she probably sold over 1,000 books just
Wow.
because she liked me and we had a conversation. And I'm sure it was literally more than that. But again, I realized if you're willing to go and say hello, and sometimes it wasn't comfortable to do that, but doing things like that and and sharing with people. And because at the time when I started, there was no internet marketing like there is now. Right. So now, even I think 2 years ago, the book, my publisher in America, which is Simon and Schuster, they ended up putting the book through Amazon US, Amazon in the US and Canada. And 2 years ago, they did a little. I think you could buy it online for a much more reduced price. At the time, it was I think the ebook, and it went to number one several times, and it was competing with some very, very successful, well-known books and authors at the time. And then they also decided to only recently to get the book, someone to do the audio for the book. So things can take time, and many of the countries that the book was published in, it became bestseller in as well. And so Yeah, and there were countries I'd never heard of as well that it went to, where I was like, oh my God, really? And then I ended up traveling to some of them. It was pretty amazing.
Wow, no, that's definitely a incredible journey and a very rewarding. And it's just great to know you have so many people on your team too. I mean, your partner helping to contact everybody and just everybody there to support you, and even the traveling experiences. I'm sure it was just very incredibly fruitful. So I think a lot of authors out there can learn from you and be inspired by you. But all of this being said, something tells me that you're not quite done, that you have another idea brewing. Maybe you're another working on another project. Or do you have any upcoming, books that we could be excited for in the future?
Absolutely. So I also wrote two other books since that particular one. And so I've got another book that hopefully will be coming out next year. And so in 2026. And that one is actually focused on all the different various stages of healing and understanding that we can get upset and frustrated and not realize that we're actually in a particular stage of healing. And when we do understand it, we can truly work with it. So I'm excited to get back to it, to be honest, because I've been working on it on and off for a couple of years, but I get really busy and I start teaching or traveling or doing things, and it gets put aside for a bit, and then I come back to it, which is kind of good as well because you see it with new eyes and new insights.
Understood. Well, honestly, this is very exciting to know. We got even more books out there. So, first off, where can people go to, get in touch with you and to see these books and to learn more about your upcoming endeavors? I'm sure you have like a website or social media that people can just click on over and learn a little bit more.
Absolutely. So they can go to my website, innasegal.com. So INNASEGAL.com. And they can see a lot of everything that I'm doing, including free masterclasses where they can actually start to experience what I talk about in my book or books, and start to hear me describe each part of what's in the books, as well as give them exercises and and deeper guidance that they can start into their lives. So yeah, go to the website innasegal.com, and if you want to watch a masterclass, it's innasegal.com/masterclass. Very easy.
Yeah, that's a really simple URL. We're going to put it in the description box of this podcast today. So, guys, if you're interested, click on over, stay up to date, and check out those resources that mentioned to us. I think this is all really compelling stuff, and even more so, even more books and resources for us to learn more about. It's incredibly powerful stuff that a lot of us just don't think about every day. Like the power of knowing our own bodies and healing. It's incredible. That being said, though, as we begin to wrap up, I'm curious to know if you happen to have any writing tips to the audience, any tips that you wish you knew when you first got started that you think might help the other authors out there who are listening today.
I feel like, firstly, you need to write about something you are personally really passionate about and have understanding about. I feel like that's really, really important. And then taking your time and actually taking the time to research, as you were saying, taking the time to put in as many, I guess, depends on what it is you're writing. If you're writing more alternative health type literature, then you need to do as much research as is possible, and also see what's already out there, and then go, what's missing? That's my question. Whenever I write something, it's like, it takes me years to decide to write a book, and it's usually based on clarity of what's out there, what is missing, and who would benefit from it. Who are the people where if I wrote this, it would make a huge difference to their life and their understanding of, I write about health, obviously. So in terms of their health or their emotions or what happened to them previously, and how do I help them overcome this? So I guess when you're writing something, you need to ask some questions like, why am I writing this? Who's it going to help? How is it going to help them? Is there anything similar to this? If there is, then you need to come back to the drawing board, so to speak, and go, how is my work going to be different to what's already out there? Because what you don't want to do is regurgitate things, but you also want to make it accessible and simple enough for people to understand. And so when I was writing, there were many, many aspects of this that I was thinking about. Like, if I'm going to give people a process, for instance, it needs to be really safe. So, and it needs to be simple enough for, let's say, a child or a teenager to be able to do and to understand. So there's many, many questions to ask about what you are writing, but also who you're doing it for. And and then I also think that as you're writing, you might want to consider in what way you're going to present this. And also, I feel like it's different to write something when you have a publisher to when you're going to self-publish it, right? Because if you're self-publishing, then you need to be aware of the editing part of it, and you need to be aware of design, and then how you're going to publicize it and how it's going to get into bookshops, as opposed to when you have a publisher, there's a little bit of a different way that things go. But also, even when you do choose a publisher, because I've had many, so I know this, that allows you to be involved in the process, or do they just do it all and you don't have a say? So there's many, many questions to explore when you're on your journey.
These are all really useful tips, and I love how you gave us a little bit of information from all the different aspects of writing, like from the process to the afterthought and everything in between. That's really important for people to know. There's so many different things to consider when it comes to writing, and you clearly have become an expert in it through all of your different processes and challenges along the way. So it's been a really inspiring conversation. I appreciate you coming onto the podcast and sharing your wisdom with us. It's clear that you have experience with it all. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much, Danielle.
Of course. And to our audience today, remember that we're going to have the links in the description box of this podcast today, so you can click and get to know a little bit more, learn a little bit more about the secret language of your body. Check out Ina's masterclass, Awaken the Healer Within. The links are right there for you. And until next time, everybody, just remember that this is the Authors on Mission podcast, where we believe that every author has the power to create profound change through their words, but also through the transformation that they've lived. So until next time, remember that your story has the power to heal, to inspire, and to show others what's possible when we tap into our deepest wisdom and share it with the world. We'll see you next time, everyone, on the Authors on Mission podcast. That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.